The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. On the first day of the week, 2 of the disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 11 kilometers from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walked along?" They stood still looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how a chief priest, the leaders handled him, and they handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hope that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place." Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses, all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. This were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. The theme of my homily this evening is the joy of Easter. The joy of Easter simply means the risen Lord, whom death could not hold him captive, whom the grave could not keep him. He conquered death, conquered the grave, conquered sin, conquered evil, conquered the devil, and conquered the Jewish leaders. And probably some non-leaders, because inasmuch as the Jewish leaders did not like Jesus, there were still a handful of the leaders who loved him. And inasmuch as many other Jews loved Jesus, there were still a handful of them who did not like him. But whatsoever be the case, what can we draw from what we are celebrating today and from this theme? Is that no matter what society, nature, environment, culture does to stop your progress in life, they will never succeed. They could only delay it for a while, but they will never deny it. They will never deny you of that. And the second message is, because we have believed and are Christians, whenever we receive Jesus in the Holy Eucharist, the love of Christianhood, brotherhood, and sisterhood is stronger. And that is the message of the journey to Emmaus. The disciples knew that that was the end, even though they heard that Jesus was no longer in the tomb. But this was the first time Jesus appeared to two of them on their road to Emmaus. Luke chapter 24. And when they came back, after Jesus opened their eyes, breaking the bread to inform their other brothers who were hiding, that was how their fears disappeared. Their love increased, and their faith was enkindled. And they went all out with courage to preach the good news, to heal those who were sick, to raise the dead. And that is what we all achieve because we believe in the Lord. And when we gather here to receive the Holy Communion, we are not just practicing a ritual. And it is not just a memorial, but it is a participation in the life of Christ. Because it is only when we break the bread that our eyes will be open. We will no longer be afraid to stand for and by the truth and to say, I stand for this. I reject this. And we will be ready for the consequences. And that explains why in the first reading, Acts of the Apostle, chapter 3, when Peter and John had to heal the cripple at the beautiful gate, they were bold enough to look at some Jewish leaders and say, you people killed the Messiah. Courage as a Christian is very important, to stand out and separate ourselves from those who do not believe in Jesus, who are not Christians. That is the central difference. Courage to say no and to say yes. But Peter said, I know that you guys did it ignorantly. But if you believe, then you don't need to doubt that this cripple can walk again. And so, my dear friends in Christ, God will not just give us physical bread and fish. God will not give us physical food, but he will give us his own self. And what is that self of his?
his commandments. The commandments of God are not burdensome. The commandments of God are just there, not to make us afraid that if we break them, this is the consequence. But the commandments are there to help us to love God better because we believe. And so that is why the second reading, 1 John chapter 2, addressed us as little children. That is what we are in the eyes of God. And so as little children, just watch your kids. No matter what they do in your presence, they don't bother. Even though you've told them, don't step on this chair, don't get into this playroom by this time, they will just, with joy and happiness, get into those things. What will you do? You will just smile and correct them. So that is what the 10 Commandments are for us. The 10 Commandments are just there for us to love God, love our neighbors, and continue to do good. So my dear friends in Christ, that is the joy of Easter. That Jesus is always with us. Jesus is always present with us. Jesus will never abandon us. And that Jesus is always there to strengthen us. That even in our fears, he will come and say, courage, my child. Even in our health challenges, Jesus will always come around and tell us, you are healed, my child. Even with our family crisis, Jesus will always be there to say, my child, be consoled. This is the way for you to step up ascensional journey. It is never a stumbling block, but it is a stepping stone. So my dear friends, let us love one another. It's a divine mandate. By telling ourselves the truth. That is the fundamental way to show love. Tell your brother, tell your sister the truth. Smile and tell them the truth. And that is the life in Christ. And then when we break the bread, it becomes that communion of the faithful. Peace be with you.